best horror movies from 2024, or my top 10 from 2024. These are just my opinions. Your opinions may be completely different, and they may be completely wrong. Who am I to judge? I totally judge. I'm super judgy, by the way.
Boom, it's turn when I walk in the room. Don't believe me, just watch.
And also, Happy New Year! Yay! And 2024 is over. Bye, 2024. Let's hope that 2025 is better than 2024. Although I will say, 2024 has been a very good year for horror. I looked at my notes and I saw all of these films that I enjoyed throughout this year. So putting this list together was actually very, very, very difficult. And I rewatched some because sometimes, you know, you may really have loved it at the time, but when you rewatch it, maybe it hits a little differently. Maybe it doesn't seem as good. I mean, anyone who's watched a film from our childhood that loved it in our childhood and then watched it as an adult and thought, ooh, that's not that great. No. So I did compile a list of 10, and I do have them in order. My 10th most favorite to my number 1 top tier best film of the year for me. Obviously, in my humble opinion, these are just my opinions. I'm sure you're gonna disagree, and that's wonderful. I'm not gonna spoil any of these films. I'll give like a brief synopsis, tell you, you know, director, actors, things like that. And I will list them below so that if you're interested in seeing any of these, you can find them for yourself. But most of them you can probably find on streaming services. And if I do see the streaming service that it's on, I'll also list that below. If you watched my top 10 from last year, then you know that I added a couple of honorable mentions as well. And yes, I did the same for this year because it was tough. It's hard. Actually, I have a list of like 25 films that I really enjoyed, but I only added 3 honorable mentions, and I'm only just gonna mention them because otherwise I might as well just say my top 13, right? I mean, at that point. My first honorable mention is Heretic. Oh my goodness, I did grow up Mormon. I know, I don't. It's wild, right? It's super wild. I was baptized. I did baptisms for the dead. I am in the book. Yeah, they still find me. Like, they're very clever like that. I actually really enjoyed my time as a Mormon. Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. It's fabulous. It was at a point in my life where I needed it. So it was great and wonderful. And honestly, I've got to tell you that most of the Mormons that I've known have been really, really good people. So, that being said, Heretic was awesome. I think this is Hugh Grant's probably best performance ever. My feelings for the man aside, I could not believe his performance. I think the sisters also just absolutely killed it. I had no idea where this film was gonna go, and I found it very fun and very enjoyable, and I'm super glad I got to see it. My second honorable mention is Stop Motion. Feels like it's been forever since I've seen this film, but this film is about stop motion. It is about a woman who does stop motion, and her mom did stop motion, and she was, you know, kind of revered as this amazing stop motion person, and she really was. And she goes about making her own film, and the weirdness that ensues, it kind of goes into crazy town, and I enjoyed it. I liked it, and the stop motion is very, very cool. If you haven't seen Phil Tippett's Mad God, you really should, because that's another stop motion film that I absolutely loved, and it was on my top 10. And my third, and probably the most controversial honorable mention is Cuckoo. I know, Cuckoo, right? Let me just tell you, I get it. Cuckoo isn't for everyone. A lot of people didn't like the monster or the way, but there was something about this film that actually scared me. I know it's simple. It's very simple. Most people were probably laughing at it. I found it very creepy and odd and weird, and I didn't like it at all. I mean, maybe it's being a woman who has had a child and those sorts of things. I don't know. I don't know what constitutes like the fear that I have when I watch something, but this just struck me in a way that actually creeped me out and scared me. I enjoyed it. I think the acting was great. I liked the characters. I had a lot of fun with this one. And now we'll get into the actual top 10 list. Starting out with number 10 on my list, we have Lisa Frankenstein. Oh yeah. I think it's the only PG-13 film I actually have on this list. Written by Diablo Cody, directed by Zelda Williams, stars Catherine Newton, Cole Sprouse, and Liza Soberano. Lisa Frankenstein is a coming-of-age romantic horror comedy. Yeah, or comedy horror. It gets very funny. It's about a girl in the 80s who falls in love with a Victorian dude who is recently reanimated. Oh my god, he's still my goth little heart. I love that about it. She does also like goth music, you know, it's in the heart. I think that the acting is great. I think that the cinematography and the colors are super fun. It's one that I would like pass on for others to watch, you know. It's very light. There's a lot of horror and there's a lot of crazy things that happen, but most of it's implied, and with it being PG-13, a lot of people can handle it. Like, this movie is number 10 because it's super fun and I enjoyed myself and I didn't take it too seriously, and some shadows flying on the wall just absolutely cracked me up. I had fun dressing up and going to the theater, so maybe that was part of the experience, but even when I watch it again, I still really love it and I really enjoy it. If I am being completely honest, I would have told you that this film would not be down at number 9 on my list, but considering some of the other films that have come along, it somehow got bumped to number 9, I suppose I should say, and number 9 is MaXXXine. Written and directed by Ty West, it stars Mia Goth, Elizabeth Debicki, and Moses Sumney. This is the third and maybe final installment from Ty West's X trilogy or tetralogy. We'll just have to see if he comes out with a fourth film there. He has mentioned that he could, he might, he possibly will. But as it stands right now, it is a trilogy. Set in the 1980s in LA, we follow Maxine again. This is several years after the events of X, which took place in the 70s, and Maxine has made her way to LA to pursue her dreams of acting. This is a slasher film, so there's lots of slashing, there's plenty good gore, it's very atmospheric, it's super 80s, it's got great cinematography, great costume, it's really great. I loved the way that he ended this trilogy, and I really would like to see a fourth installment in this franchise. Coming in at number 8, I have Terrifier 3. Yep. Written and directed by Damien Leone, it stars David Howard Thornton, Lauren Lavera, and Elliot Fulham. This is a supernatural Christmas slasher. Years after surviving Art the Clown, Sienna is released from a mental health facility and her brother is attending university. Art the Clown manages to be reborn and once again terrorizes their family. I love the Terrifier franchise. You know I love the Terrifier franchise, and this is probably my favorite from actually the franchise in the series. And I love how even more over the top it is, how gory it is, because it's deliciously gory. Maybe the best kill isn't as gory as that bedroom scene from the second one, but I mean, you could debate that. I love that it has a Christmas theme. Of course, we get some new glasses for Art. And this movie takes a little bit of a different direction. I like that Sienna and Jonathan are kind of known because of what they've survived, and it goes into a whole religious kind of thing here, and I am living for it. I love it. I can't wait to see where Terrifier 4 goes. I think we know where it's gonna go, straight to hell, but I guess we'll see. Damien has surprised me before, and I'm sure he'll surprise me again. Coming in at number 7, we have Abigail, directed by Matt Bettinelli, Open, and Tyler Gillette. It stars Melissa Beretta, Dan Stevens, and Catherine Newton. This is a vampire horror film, and it's about a young ballet dancer named Abigail who is taken by 6 criminals. They have to hold her or guard her for 24 hours. After that point, they get to split like $50 million or something. I can't remember the figure, but it's a lot of money. I went into this film not really having any expectations. Blew my mind out of the water. I loved the story, the acting, all the blood and gore, the music. I mean, this one is a lot of fun. I thought it was really funny. I liked that none of the criminals knew each other, so they were getting to know each other just as we were getting to know them. I liked the take on vampirism, where they're pretty hardcore, but maybe there's a little bit of a soft side to them. I don't always like my vampires full evil. Like that doesn't turn me on. That's a zombie to me. It just does nothing. But I like a little humanity, a little something behind that. The cinematography was wonderful. I loved the stylization. I think that this film is very, very, very good. I think the dancing ballet scene is hilarious. If I were doing a top kills list, that would probably be in the top 10 even, because I think it's hilarious that a little girl is dancing with this body. It's precious. It's so cute. Maybe my idea of cute is a little bit messed up. But yeah, it's a good film. Coming in at number 6, we have Exuma. And I just want to say that I really apologize because I am going to probably butcher these names. So I'm very, very, very sorry. I'm sorry. Okay. Directed by Jang Jae-hun. It stars Choi Min-sik, Kim Go-eun, Yoo Hae-jin. It was probably worse than I even thought that I was gonna do, to be honest with you. So once again, I apologize. The movie's fantastic. Please don't judge it based on my reading of the director and actors' names. It's a South Korean supernatural horror film. And yes, it is subtitled. So for those of you out there who don't like subtitles, yeah, can't do anything for you there. You're gonna be missing a lot of really good films though if you don't get over that. A shaman is asked to investigate a mysterious illness for a baby, and they discover that it is a vengeful ancestor that is making the child sick or making the baby sick. And so of course they go to cleanse this curse or what's happening here. And it is a much bigger, a much larger story than what I'm telling you, but I don't want to give anything away. It's a little bit political. I kind of lost my mind when I saw this one creature. I will tell you, this film starts out and it's one way. You feel like you're like watching this ghost hunting squad or something, and then I guess middle-ish or so, it just completely switches and it almost becomes like a creature feature, but it's really like still ghost hunting, and it gets wild. And it's very good. It's very interesting. It's very well done. Some of the cinematography is very, very, very cool. I just really enjoyed it, and I liked the idea of tradition and burial rites, and I like that all that stuff comes into play into this film. Obviously, I think it's fantastic because it's number 6 on my list. Just saying. At number 5, we're halfway there. We have Late Night with the Devil. Hey! Written and directed by Cameron and Colin Cairns. It stars David Dastmalchian, Laura Gordon, and Ian Bliss. This is a supernatural horror that is presented as a found footage documentary style, and there's some behind the scenes footage that is, in my opinion, not meant to be found footage, because I know some people have a hard time with a found footage film, thinking it all has to be found footage. It doesn't all have to be found footage to be a found footage film. Just saying, guys. We center around Jack Delroy, who is the host of a late night talk show called Night Owls. Jack's wife had died recently and he had had a very difficult time with this, so he took a break from the show, but he's coming back. His ratings aren't, where he wants them or where they should be. So for a special Halloween episode, Jack decides to bring forth an entity possessing a young girl. Now, the young girl was also the only surviving member of a satanic cult. What could go wrong, right? Not only do I love David's performance, which I think is absolutely wonderful, and obviously he is pretty much the central part of this film. I love the whole look of it. I love this 70s vibe, this whole feel, the costume, the wardrobes, like just the people themselves feel right, and that's awesome. David's suits, like that brown, like who can pull that off? Apparently he can. Like, cause ew, but it looks fabulous on him. I also loved the way it was shot. I loved that they changed the aspect ratio and the color. I just found this to be super duper fun, and I really enjoyed it, and I like the concept of it. I know a lot of people didn't love the ending because I felt like it went off the rails, and it did go off the rails, but I liked the way that it went off the rails. I mean, the theremin helps too. I'm a total theremin lover. Coming in at number 4, we have Strange Darling. Ugh. Now this one. Written and directed by J.T. Molnar. It stars Willa Fitzgerald, Kyle Gallner, and Barbara Hershey. This is a horror thriller, and it's told in chapters and out of order. Sounds crazy, right? Yeah, because it is crazy. It's absolutely totally 1000% crazy, and I loved every second of this film. This film was so compelling and so interesting and so wild and so simple. So very, very, very simple, but brilliantly done. It just goes to show you you don't need like a massive story to tell a good story, a compelling story. I can't say too much about the story, but I will say a woman meets a man and they go to a hotel for a tryst. And that's about all that I can tell you. I mean, about the time it gets to Mr. Snuffleupagus, you know, things are wild. I think the acting in this is just absolutely phenomenal. I think that the ending death scene would also be in, you know, top 10 deaths or kills or whatever, because it is so long and so uncomfortable and so crazy, much like the film. There is very little to it, but so much to it. It came out of nowhere for me. I knew nothing going in, and I'm glad that I didn't. Wild. It's not the wildest one on my list, though. Nope. We have another period piece coming in at number 3, The First Omen. Oh, yeah. Directed by Arkasha Stevenson, it stars Nell Tiger Free, Ralph Ineson, and Bill Nye. This is a supernatural religious horror film, and it is a prequel to the 1976's The Omen. An American novitiate travels to Italy, specifically to an Italian orphanage run by the church, before she takes her final vows. This film looks amazing. Nell Tiger Free is phenomenal, obviously. She's a wonderful actress, and she's wonderful in this. I loved the 70s aesthetic. I love the vibe. I love the way the film looks. I feel like it perfectly fits with the original Omen. I was very impressed watching this film. I'm so glad I saw it in the theater because it is stunning. I know a lot of people had an issue with the whole jackal thing. I feel like the jackal thing absolutely works. It absolutely fits, but without giving spoilers, I cannot explain that. They didn't avoid this. They didn't ignore this, and I think it worked with it. And I actually feel like it almost made even more sense. And I'd love to see more taking off from this. I really, really would. I waited for this film because I had a feeling this film would be this good, and of course it is that good. I bet more people are surprised that it is not at my number 1. No, it is in fact at my number 2, and that is Nosferatu, directed by Robert Eggers. It stars Bill Skarsgård, Nicholas Hoult, and Lily Rose Depp. This is a gothic vampire film. Hey. And it's basically Dracula. That's the story. The story is not going to break any ground. It's not going to teach you something new. It is not going to be wild and different. That's not the point of this film. This film, though, is a cinematic masterpiece. It is absolutely gorgeous. Just so gorgeous. It has the most amazing transitions, honestly, that I feel like I've almost ever seen. Beautifully acted. The wardrobe, the location, everything about it is really so gorgeous. I love the practical effects. I could watch this over and over. I just feel like it's so intense, but I didn't leave the theater feeling depressed. I myself was captivated by the film, much like Ellen is captivated by Count Orlok. Yes. Why is that at number 2 and not at number 1? Well, my number 1 is The Substance. Written and directed by Coralie Farja, it stars Demi Moore, Margaret Qualley, and Dennis Quaid. This is a body horror film about an aging celebrity who gets fired on her 50th birthday. It's awful. While driving home, she gets into an accident, and someone is sympathetic to her plight, as it were, and they offer her a solution: the substance. Now, the reason why this film is my number 1 is because, well, body horror is freaking awesome. But the story too, it's done so well. It resonates so well. It's so raw and it's so open, and it's really quite painful. Because of how wild it is, you can't really focus on how painful it is because things get crazy. They get crazier and crazier and crazier. until you reach the pinnacle bloodbath. And that is, it's just so awesome. And it was very, very, very funny. I really enjoyed this film. I think that Demi Moore just killed it. Margaret killed it. Dennis Quaid killed it. Like, every aspect of this, the cinematography with the colors, it entertained me so very, very, very much and shocked me and made me laugh. And honestly, it probably could have made me cry if I would really think about what is happening to this poor woman. There's just so many emotions that I felt here. And I love that it's kind of an FU to the world in a way, you know? I love that. So now that we have my top 10 best horror films of 2024, I have to decide whether I'm gonna do the top 10 worst films of 2024. That's harder, actually. I don't wanna pick on lower budget or indie films because I feel like that's low-hanging fruit. And there are definitely some films that I did not like for this year. I am not gonna do a top 10 list if, you know, I feel like I'm picking unnecessarily on one production house or anything. I am going to think about it. I have something in the works, but I'm not certain if that is something that I really want to do. And usually when I dislike a film, it's because it pissed me off. It's because it insulted me. It's because it, you know, it something like that. And I don't know that I have a lot of films like that this year. So I've got to work through some things here. I know, though, I'm going to do a top 10 most anticipated for 2025. I've got quite a list. I'm going to try to just do 10, which is kind of hard, but I can do that. There's my top 10 horror movies for 2024. Is there anything that you would have added to this list? What is your favorite horror film from 2024? And are you doing anything special for New Year's? I'm not. I'm sitting around and probably gonna fall asleep even before midnight. That's probably the case. But if you're doing anything special, please let me know in the comments below. And as always, I really do hope that you have the most amazing day, my spooky darlings. Going into this new year, I want to thank my Patreon members. You're so wonderful. You're so awesome. I hope you have the most amazing 2025. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Why are owls so weird? Owls are weird, right? They're always used in like weird things for people. Like Moloch. And then like, you know, when people have like alien things, they say, oh, I saw an owl. I saw an owl, don't you know? I saw an owl with these big owl eyes. Hoo, hoo. I sound crazy. Okay, I feel like I could be super judged by these. Although I'm super judged by everything, so what does it matter, right?